Hi, it's Rich Tehrani in the TMC newsroom, and today we're on location at the Streaming Media East Show 2010 in Manhattan. On our program is Jim Janicki, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Ignite Technologies. Jim, how are you?
I'm great.
Thanks for being on our program.
Thanks for having me.
So, important question is, can you tell me a little bit about your company, please?
Yeah, Ignite provides content delivery within the enterprise. So we focus on the ability to deliver high quality content, video specifically, inside the enterprise using peer-to-peer technology.
Fantastic, and you have some news, right, regarding a new partnership that you.
We did. We announced a partnership today with Kumu, and Kumu and us have partnered together to do the end-to-end platform delivery now. So we can actually do content capture and creation, content management, and delivery. So between the two companies, we've formed an alliance that gives you end-to-end capability.
Now, the benefits to customers are, as they say sometimes, better integration. Single throat to choke is a common expression, right? So
yeah.
Less problems?
Less problems. It's pre-integrated, so you don't have to go fight over how you're going to do this. So you actually have the ability now to take the two best platforms out there for content creation and content delivery, and they're married together, so you can start at the beginning of content creation and management all the way to seamlessly delivering it to the desktop.
Fantastic. So from the customer standpoint, this just reduces a tremendous amount of complexity, right?
Right, and you don't have to worry about that integration hassle.
Now, we talked a little bit earlier about rules within an organization. Can we go through that a little bit just so that the viewers can hear what you told me?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been working on and focusing on is the phenomenon that's growing out there of YouTube for the enterprise, is what people like to call it. But one of the issues that people are struggling with is how am I going to manage that content, and what are the rules around who can produce content, who can they deliver it to. So you could go from one end of the spectrum, which is we'll just let anybody produce anything, and if they put anything inappropriate up there, we'll just terminate them. Or you go to the other end that says we're going to review every piece of content. Well, that's in itself a fallacy that says if you really start generating a lot of end user content, you'll have an entire division of people just reviewing content. So one of the things that we're working on is the ability for the customer themselves to create a rule set of how do you want to manage that content and what rules get put around that content. Who can publish, what can they publish, who can they deliver it to, those types of rule sets that are more flexible, so they're defined by the customer. How do you want to manage that end user content?
Now, in one case, it was interesting that one company set up a rule where 30 views was the trigger for them, right?
Yeah, so their issue was if people publish content and nobody watches it, then what's the point of reviewing it? So it's sort of like if you threw a party and nobody came, nobody'd care. So their rule was put the content up. If 30 people watch the content, then they wanted to quarantine the content so that then somebody that's a subject matter expert or a reviewer could review it, and once it was approved by the reviewer, then put it back out. So their view was until 30 people watched the content, it didn't have that broad of an appeal or could create that bigger problem. But over 30, it started to grow, so we'll stop the content until it gets reviewed. So just an interesting way to look at the various ways that people want to manage it, and how do you create a rule set around what the company decides their rule set should be, and that's what we're focusing on.
Now, in terms of the marketplace, what are you seeing in 2010 and 11? Are you seeing increased demand for your products?
Yeah, and I think the increased demand comes from the more rapid adoption of video inside the enterprise. We're seeing more and more enterprises really coming on board and saying we want to use video more widespread in the organization. It's no longer just a top-down CEO message, but lots of things being developed inside the enterprise. So we're seeing a huge adoption of video, and now the issues of, okay, how am I going to manage that content and how am I going to deliver that content are starting to manifest.
Now, does a lot of this content revolve around the concept of just training, cross-departmental training and things like that, or is it success studies or how-tos?
It's everything from HR announcements to CEO broadcast of quarterly results to training material to departmental messaging. So we're actually seeing, that's part of this end user generated content, we're seeing department managers saying, I want to create some content and push it out to just my team. So we're seeing video becoming much more prolific.
That's great. So what's next for your company?
Well, I think we've got some work to do on getting this end user generated content engine out there, and that's due out this summer.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being on the program. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.